welcome back, BrookLAN. We're here with round 5 of our local here today. I am Charisma Check, or Tyson Hughes, here with Kevin Miller.
Yes, sir. And
very excited.
We have a big match on our hands in this round 5. We have featured everyone, if not all of the people that are still undefeated. We are moving on to the X and 1s, and we have a great pairing this round for y'all.
Yeah, and the X and 1s are also important, right? Because there are 6 rounds of Swiss today. So the people who do go X2, they have a chance at CP, but you really want to secure that X1 spot or higher to make sure you're getting CP at this event.
Yeah, only top 8 getting CP today. I think maybe 2 or 3 X and 2s will make that cut. So every round is very important from this point
You should always
on.
be aiming to win, right? Like at these tournaments as well. But we are going to be featuring Tom Hayden versus Paul Chua. Both well-known players in the community, I think. Paul Chua for their results and things like that, and Tom Hayden for their personality.
Yeah, Tom is one of the biggest personalities in VGC, a great member to the community, and we see their leads right here very early in the game 1. We see Tom lock in Armor Rouge and DD, and Paul lock in Chempao and the Water Ogre Pond.
Yeah, so both these teams are super interesting as well. Paul kind of opting for that standard Chempao, Ogre Pond, Roaring Moon, Amoonguss, things like that with the Heatran, as we saw them feature before with the Shaka Berry on their Heatran. Tom Hayden actually opting for something like the Dondozo, that 2-2-2. This one taking a different take on it though. It's Size Spam, Lilycole, excuse me, Size Spam, Lilycole, and Dondozo.
Yeah, something Tom is very familiar with. He is a known Trick Room player and falls to a comfortable lead with this Indeedee Armor Rouge on game 1. We see the Terrestrialization on turn 1 from Tom, going Water Indeedee, a very interesting Terra type call on Indeedee.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good lead from Paul here. It's kind of the only lead you really have into the team where you have the option to Terrestrialize your Ogre Pond and get the +1, which is very important against both of these TR setters, where you want the +1 against like the Expanding Force. We see an Ivy Cudgel and a Lash Out. Miss the KO on Indeedee, that's really big.
Yeah, the Terra Water coming very big there for Tom. He's able to conserve this Indeedee and get up Trick Room freely with Armor Rouge at full health. Now, can he capitalize on these turns, or will Paul be able to play through the Trick Room?
Yeah. So it's big in the sense that you now have Indeedee on the field, but at the same time, I actually think Paul's maybe okay with that because we see Tom has Heat Wave, Expanding Force, Trick Room, and Focus Blast on their Armor Rouge, shows no Protect. So that means you are able to fire off an attack with this Ogre Pond in the Armor Rouge. If you do get the opportunity, the Indeedee, like, notably doesn't go for Follow Me. Like, Tom has to make a choice there. Do you go for Heat Wave, right, to break the Chien-Pao, bring it down to Sash, and go for a Dazzling Gleam with Indeedee, as we see here? But Paul had the option to go for, like, maybe a Protect on the Chien-Pao, and the Ogre Pond could go for a Terra Water, like, Ivy Cudgel. There was options there that both players had to make. And I think Tom got the better end of the stick there.
Yeah, we see Hornleech taking out the Indeedee, where maybe Paul could have went for an Ivy Cudgel into the Armor Rouge, very vulnerable, but Tom able to take out the Chempao, and in his low health Indeedee is able to obviously die here, which you don't obviously want your Pokemon to die, but for Tom here, he gets in another Trick Room sweeper.
Yeah, and that being the Torkoal a really, really strong one as well. Boosting up with that Drought ability, you are able to set the sun and kind of boost your damage with your Heat Waves and your own Eruptions on Torkoal, and Torkoal being at full HP here is going to be threatening a lot of damage. The Ogre Pond now is at a range where I'd say you don't really want to Terrestrialize it, but because Paul has the Terrestrialization still, this Amoonguss could Terrestrialize instead. And now that Tom has burnt the Water Terrestrialization on the Indeedee, neither of these Pokemon on his side are able to Terrestrialize, so something like a Spore is pretty free into the Armor Rouge.
I think Tom is pretty free here to double target this Amoonguss though. Even at this range, Torkoal's the fastest thing in Trick Room, and this Eruption will most certainly pick up this Ogre Pond from this range. So this Amoonguss is fearing a double up in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see a Lilligant come in to try to eat that Spore that Paul is most likely going for in that Armor Rouge slot. But this is still an awkward position, I think, for Tom, because now you have a Lilligant under the sun with the Chlorophyll boosts and Trick Room.
Yes, very true. Lilligant is now the fastest thing in the field. We do see Paul lock into Terra Water on this Amoonguss. Did Paul target the right slot here? If it did go into the Armor Rouge, this Torkoal will be free to Eruption pretty much freely back to that turn. The
Ogre Pond does go down to the Eruption, and the Amoonguss notably does live like above 50%, so that Citrus Berry is not going to get procced for that Amoonguss.
The Spore does go into the Lilligant though, Tom calling the Spore correctly. Very good switch from Tom.
I think the thing, though, the Amoonguss took a lot from that eruption, more than I think Paul maybe would have liked, even though you're burning your Trustlace in water. And the fact that the speed boost went off on Fluttermane as well is kind of awkward. We actually see that Tom's Lilligant also has an Encore. There's a lot of interesting team choices on this team where normally I think players would just opt for the standard stuff, where it's like Sleep Powder, Leaf Blade, Close Combat, Protect, very standard things. But things like Encore and Focus Blast, I think, would really exemplify and make Tom's team Tom's.
Yes, for sure. He goes for the niche picks that help him in certain matchups into the meta. Like maybe not necessarily what you expect to see, but Tom has this niche 2-2-2 team, but has choices for the meta teams that we see, like Paul's balance team here.
Yeah, and we see Armourouge come in for that Torkoal slot, and a Protect from the Fluttermane on Paul's side, just trying to stall out those Trick Room turns that Tom still has set up, and a Spore into that Torkoal slot. It's the safest slot, obviously. You know what's coming. The Armourouge, the Torkoal, both can't protect. They're taking, they're going to take a Spore. And a Sleep Powder does land on the Amoonguss there, and Amoonguss is going to have to start sleeping.
Yeah, the less accurate sleep move here, but when it goes off, it works just the same. So very good turn from Tom there to trade sleeps, expecting the Spore into the Torkoal slot.
Yeah, so very notably as well that this Armourouge is asleep and is going to have to take a turn of sleep, that being on the last turn of Trick Room. So this Amoonguss also is fighting the sleep turns off, but when it wakes up, it'll be in a more awkward position because both the Pokemon on Tom's side of the field here, that being the Armourouge and the Lilligant, are both going to be faster than this Torkoal, so something like next turn, a Close Combat could really hurt. Depending on what this Fluttermane decides to lock in this turn, that being the Moonblast, is going to be able to bring this Lilligant down to its Focus Sash, but it's doing... these two Pokemon are going to be doing so much together in combination. And Sleep Powder does unfortunately land into the Fluttermane there, starting the sleep timer on Paul's Fluttermane.
Yeah, Tom, 2 successful Sleep Powders here, and that's what Lilligant can do. Now the Trick Room goes away, the Psychic Terrain goes away, and Tom has 2 Pokemon asleep here, and, well, see if his Armourouge wakes up first. The sleep turns in this game are going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and Close Combat, does it pick up the KO? It does not, and Amoonguss is going to hang on. Not that Paul has anything to switch it out for. Or excuse me, they do have something to switch it out for that Tom doesn't really know it's in the back. The Citrus Berry is going to proc. Armourouge does stay asleep. Or the Fluttermane stays asleep, obviously taking that turn of sleep. Then the Armourouge, then the Amoonguss. Everyone's just asleep. It's a fiesta.
Yeah, everyone is going
or
to sleep.
siesta.
There you go. It's a siesta fiesta. There you go. We see the Lilligant here is free to just attack this Amoonguss again. Amoonguss could wake up and go for the Protect, and then you hope your Fluttermane wakes up, but this game is going to come all down the sleep turns, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is all these Pokemon are at such low HP as well. Again, very notably, Tom's Lilligant doesn't have access to that Leaf Blade. It has Encore and Sleep Powder, so its only damaging move is that Close Combat. So if you're Paul, right, you can find yourself in a position where it's just Lilligant versus Fluttermane. We do see a Protect from the Amoonguss, getting that wake up very, very crucial there. This Lilligant is not going to be able to pick up a KO on this Amoonguss this turn, and if the Fluttermane wakes up, this is going to do a lot of damage.
Does the Fluttermane wake up on this turn?
And
it does!
does!
You see its eyes open! It locks Moonblast into this Lilligant. Now, does Armourouge wake... If Armourouge wakes up and targets this Fluttermane, I don't know if it probably won't pick up, but it'll still do decent damage.
Heatwave will do a lot of damage with the Sun Boost.
Armourouge does
Everyone's
wake up.
waking up! The party's over! Everyone's awake, and Heatwave doesn't connect on this Fluttermane.
It goes into the Protect. It does pick up. Sun boosted. Fluttermane hangs on.
No, Fluttermane Spadef really shining there, and even with the Life Orb and the Sun Boost, Armourouge unfortunately is not able to pick up the KO. I think Fluttermane is a really, really good position here now. Even though Torkoal does come in, get the Sun Boost again for the Armourouge, it is choice spec. So it has to make a choice here. What is it really going to lock into? Paul's not out of the woods yet. Both these Pokemon are still really low HP, and because of the speed tiers on I think how they work, this Fluttermane can go for a super effective move, that being Shadow Ball into the Armourouge. Now, it's not choice specs. We saw the booster energy go off. It is able to go for that in the Armourouge. You don't Protect if you're Tom, right? You have to make a few decisions here. This Torkoal really has to kind of shine depending on what Paul has in the back.
Yeah, we will see what Tom locked in here. Does he go for the resetting of Trick Room? Does he just go for damage? We'll see what he feels is most optimal. This Fluttermane does click Shadow Ball into this Armourouge, and it cannot hang on We'll see if Torkoal can do enough here, but we're out of Trick Room, I believe. This Amoonguss can outspeed and put this Torkoal to sleep, and that's indeed what it does.
Exactly. And Paul should be able to wrap up this game. This game won pretty well. The sleep turns there, obviously coming in clutch for both players. All being able to wake up at the same time was kind of funny.
Yeah, 3 wakes on the same turn. Paul obviously getting a little more advantage out of that. This Fluttermane was, like you said, positioned really well to clean up this end game once it was awake.
And I think that's where something like the Specs Fluttermane kind of would have lost you that game, where you are locked and you don't have the option for Protect. The substitute here just kind of guaranteeing the win con as well, just in case the Torkoal decides to wake up. You know you're not going to KO the Torkoal in one Shadow Ball, so you substitute to guarantee the win con.
Yeah, and that's just like an elite level play from an elite level player. Paul realizing his automatic win con is to get this sub up. He knows he can't take out the Torkoal in one hit, so he's going to pollen puff his substitute Flutter and be able to take this end game.
Yeah, and this Fluttermane really showing that Specs isn't the only moveset. Something like the substitute and this speed booster are really viable, I think, in this format as well. If you are able to position a substitute against something like a Trick Room, for example, if Paul leads something like Fluttermane into the Indeedee moves and you're able to go for a substitute on a Follow Me Trick Room, that's really good for Paul.
Very true, very true. We'll see if he utilizes that in Game 2, but I don't know. Paul's lead worked out for him pretty well in Game 1. Was able to position himself in an end game where he could get out of Trick Room and get his Fluttermane going next to his Terra Water Amoonguss. I think you always, not always, but in most situations you do want to terrestrialize Amoonguss in this matchup. All the fire damage and psychic damage threaten Amoonguss like very much. So having that Terra Water Amoonguss keeping its bulk around and pressuring sleep was very good for Paul in this game.
Yeah, and I think Paul realizing as well is that even though you go Terrestrialization Water, you don't have to worry about Leaf Blade, right? Normally the problem with the Lilycole stuff is that if you Terrestrialize your Water and your Amoonguss to stop the Torkoal, you're usually getting Leaf Bladed. But Tom actually, again, has opted for Sleep Powder, Encore, and Close Combat. So there's a few niche scenarios where Paul is able to find a way to kind of position that Fluttermane, get the substitutes, get those protects to really be able to stop the Trick Room and effectively stall out those turns.
Yeah, I think in this game too, Tom saw that Paul was able to stall his Trick Room and effectively position his Fluttermane Amoonguss. Maybe we see Tom go straight for the Sun mode and then a Dondozo Tatsugiri in the back this time. Maybe just try to win the Speed War.
And that's where like the 2-2-2 comes in, right? Where a lot of players feel as if it's 50-50s all around, where a lot of times the Dondozo players, they like to lead one of the two cores. I think where a lot of the Dondozo players really like to shine are the ones that are flexible in their game plans, right? It's not just Chua Flush, it's not Dondozo Tatsugiri. You're able to lead different things and kind of form different game plans. But we are just going to see the Lilycole lead, as you kind of said before, and a Qian Amoonguss lead from Paul here, which I like a lot as well.
Yeah, pressuring a lot of damage with this Chien-Pao and Sleep with Amoonguss. This interaction between Spore and Sleep Powder could be very interesting here.
Yeah, but again, the thing about Paul here, right, is you're able to go for a Terra Water on your Amoonguss very safely. With no Leaf Blade threatening you, there's no double up that can happen from Tom here. So you can very safely go for a Spore into this Choice Specs Torkoal.
We see the Terra Water Amoonguss. We see the Sleep Powder.
But a Sleep Powder! Tom calling the Translation Water on Paul's Amoonguss and hitting the Sleep Powder!
What a call from Tom there. Huge play. We see Ice Whip Crash land in the Lilligant, proccing its Focus Sash, and this Torkoal is going to be able to get a free fire move off into both slots. What a call from Tom.
Really well played turn one from Tom there. Amoonguss is going to be able to burn a turn of sleep, but it is going to be fast asleep with Heat Wave hitting off into the Chien-Pao, bringing it down to Focus Sash. Amoonguss not taking anything thanks to that Translation Water. But now, again, very notably, it is locked into that move. So it's not nearly doing as much as Eruption would have with the, like, After You, but it's still doing a decent amount of chip to the Amoonguss. I'll say that.
Yeah, this Chien-Pao is threatened by the faster Lilligant here. We'll see if Paul goes for a switch or protect. He cannot Terra Ghost in this situation, and he just lets the Chien-Pao go down. So we see Tom take an early advantage here, picking up Paul's Chien-Pao.
Yeah, and the single target Heat Wave, Choice Specs in the sun is going to do a little bit of damage. Does the Amoonguss wake up, though?
It does wake up, gets the first turn wake.
And it's going to get a Spore off for the Amoonguss.
Paul really needed that wake on turn 1 after Tom calls the Terra.
This is a scary game because Pokemon have been falling asleep left and right. But then knowing this game, right, the Turtle takes his turn to sleep here, getting that guaranteed turn to sleep. Knowing how this game is gone, though, Tom might just go for an after you Heat Wave, and he might just wake up.
100%. Tom also has another sleep powder potentially into this Amoonguss. Amoonguss can protect, and maybe you go for the kill with Ogerpon, but Tom does have a weird scenario here where he can put this Amoonguss to sleep again.
Yeah, and we do just see a safe protect from Paul there, going for protect. Knowing the Ogerpon can't be put to sleep, very, very safe from Paul to protect, not worry about. Just the Ogerpon is most likely going to target into the Lilligant here, getting rid of the sleep powder. You can't get put to sleep if the target is gone, if Lilligant is gone.
Will Torkoal get the first turn wake here and give some momentum back to Tom?
Oh, don't jinx it.
It does wake up!
And
He
the
gets
Torkoal
another
wakes
first
up.
turn wake. He misses a Heat Wave. Oh, that goes into the protect.
It goes into the protect, and it hits into the Ogerpon. It's going to do a lot of damage. Wow.
We see the Indeedee Armarouge in the back for Tom, not the Dondozo. So I think that it does put Tom in an interesting position here because Ogerpon is still the fastest thing on the field. However, you're turning a lot of big damage here.
Yeah, and we see the Terrestrialization Psychic on this Armarouge. So if this, even if they, I feel like even if Tom stayed as Terra Fire, you always Terra Psychic here. You're just doing so much damage, and with no Chien-Pal in the field, there's no Dark immunity to be immune to your Expanding Force. This Ogerpon cannot kill your Armarouge. With the Sun, the critical hits, we are going to see the Amoonguss switch out. What is it going to be into? It is going to be the Fluttermane.
Fluttermane is going to take a lot of damage from this Terra Psychic
I don't
boosted.
know if the Fluttermane eats an Expanding Force.
I don't.
Terra Psychic Life Orb.
I think this Armarouge might pick up a double knockout here if the Ogerpon doesn't protect, and Tom could be in the driver's seat against this Amoonguss.
I am very scared here. The thing is, though, is now that you are committing to this Terra Psychic, Paul has the safe play now to go for a Dazzling Gleam. When before you would resist it because you have the Fire as your secondary typing on the Armarouge, but with Fluttermane now being on the field, if it is able to live this Expanding Force, you're able to go for something like a Dazzling Gleam next turn very safe.
However, if Fluttermane does live this attack and Ogerpon protects, Paul has a very nice... Well, you can't even... I was going to say you can Shadow Ball this Terra Psychic Armarouge, but Indeedee could just redirect it, so...
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is, like, going for a Dazzling Gleam next turn, oh my god, you needed a current Ivy Cudgel. You needed it. And with the speed boost on Fluttermane as well, you can already guess that your Dazzling Gleam is not going to be enough. The Fluttermane does hang on, but what I really think Paul needed there was a critical hit on the Ivy Cudgel to bring the Armarouge maybe to about half HP.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how Tom has trained his Armarouge here. This will be a very big turn in the match. Can Tom's Armarouge hang on and get another very powerful Expanding Force?
And the other thing too is that Tom going for Follow Me there, Paul's not out of the wood, or excuse me, Tom's not out of the woods yet. Something like a Protect from Fluttermane could come out here. We don't see it. Instead, we see a Shadow Ball.
Ooh. Paul playing a little risky there, clicking the Shadow Ball. I mean, it was always the chance that Indeedee redirects it. Tom like clicking Follow Me just in case, and we see the Expanding Force go up.
Oh wow!
And picking up the Amoonguss at that range.
Yeah, I mean, most Amoongusses nowadays are built defensively. So they're usually not taking that Expanding Force anymore, especially with the Terra Psychic. I was expecting it to live, actually, but I think if you're Paul, a play there that you could have made is something like maybe a Protect into Fluttermane, reading that the Follow Me is going to come out. You could Spore that Indeedee slot pretty safely, and then you're able to go for a Shadow Ball in the following turn, or if you do want to not protect your Fluttermane, you could go for something like a Dazzling Gleam and a Spore. But it's such a difficult position if you're Paul. The Terra Psychic comes out, the Indeedee is coming in, it's not dying turn 1 as we saw in game 1. You're in a really difficult position if you're Paul.
I think Tom really gained all the momentum in that game, calling the Terra Water on Amoonguss turn 1, getting the sleep, and I think having the Indeedee Armarouge in the back this time was a very good adjustment from Tom. Will we see it again, or will we get to see the Dondozo in this game 3?
And it's kind of what we talked about as well, is where is the 2-2-2 mode, where it's you really want to be able to position when and where to bring your leads, right? Lily Cole might have not worked game 1 in the back, but it worked a lot better in the lead, and I think that's a general Lily Cole thing. But then Arm Rouge in the back as well is if you're able to assess the threats, right? Your opponent always has to think, okay, is it Arm Rouge and DD in the back? Is it Dozo in the back? And Paul's a good enough player, I think, to adjust, as we saw in that game 2, to bring the Amoonguss Chen Pao and make an adjustment in game 3 where they're maybe able to figure out what Tom is playing to.
I think a lot of Tom's momentum has come from these sleep powders, and as we know, sleep powder is only 75% accurate, so I feel like that...
He has yet to miss one.
He is yet to miss one. Tom does have plot armor so far, but will he be able to keep landing them and keep this momentum? We will see as our trainers send out their leads.
And Paul confident in the Amoonguss Chen Pao lead, and Tom also confident in their Lily Cole lead. We are going to see the Lilligant and Torkoal and the Chen Pao Amoonguss.
Now, we see the mind game here. Does Tom lock the sleep powder into Terra Water Amoonguss again? This is going to be very interesting.
We love 50-50s.
We do love the 50-50, and that's what you get with the 2-2-2 team.
But I think the consistent play is always going for the Terra Water and the Amoonguss, right? Because even if Tom does decide to place it up, go for after you Eruption, you're losing a Pokemon or you get putting to sleep. Like, there's a 75% chance you get put to sleep. Yes, but that's better than getting immediately O-Code. So we are going to see a Terastallization here from Paul. This is always the correct play.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth risking losing your Amoonguss turn 1. I think this is just objectively the correct play.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get put to sleep, but that's a read Tom has to make. So if you're on Tom's end of the field, right, you have to make the read. Paul just has a consistent play that they are able to go for, and if this is a Spore into the Torkoal, I think Tom is already, Paul is immediately ahead.
Yeah. We see Amoonguss not even take half, and the Chen Pao knocked down to his Sash. It does land the Iso Crash, knocking the Lilligant to his Sash, and I think we can see a Spore coming into the Torkoal here from the Terra Water Amoonguss, putting Paul in
I
a
wouldn't be
very
surprised.
good spot.
I was also going to say, if instead of Spore, I also wouldn't have been surprised if we saw a double up into the Lilligant from Paul there to get rid of the Lilligant. No reason to risk anything, no reason to risk a sleep out of this turn. You're able to just get it off the field immediately. But putting the Torkoal to sleep also makes a lot of sense. If, Tom wanted to get cheeky, maybe switch out the Torkoal for something. Again, Paul's not out of the wood yet. That was turn 1.
Yeah. And crucially, because Torkoal went first there,
it does not burn that turn of sleep.
It does not burn that turn of sleep. So Torkoal will take a mandatory turn of sleep here. And Tom is on the back foot. We see Torkoal switch out here into the Armor Rouge here, which is a very interesting switch from Tom, trying to gain any momentum back. We see the Sleep Powder land into the Chen Pao, and this Amoonguss could just go for the pickup here with Pollen Puff into this Lilligant.
Yeah.
We see
Tom has not missed a single Sleep Powder yet.
He has not. This is the Tom Hayden special. We do see Pollen Puff take out the Lilligant. So,
and that's what I was saying. I think I would have liked to see that last turn from Paul, is where that Pollen Puff maybe gets the KO on the Lilligant, and the Torkoal is was moving first with the after you. I guess the assumption, right, is if Tom goes for the same play, you're relying on the Sleep Powder miss, and then you're burning a turn of sleep. So it's a little weird. Like, both plays make a lot of sense. The Aditi is going to come here from Tom's end, and you are going to get that Psychic Terrain. No more Sucker Punch from that Chen Pao. If it does decide to wake up on that turn 1, but Lash Out is still going to hurt.
Yes, for sure. But maybe Tom just goes for the Dazzling Gleam to pick up a... Because maybe you go for the Expanding Force and the Dazzling Gleam and pick up both Mons here and try to win that way, but I feel like not having Trick Room set up for these Pokemon could be very influential. We see Paul actually switch out the Amoonguss into Ogre Pond. This is a very interesting switch for Paul.
Oh, we do see the Turtle Wake Up!
The first turn Wake Up!
And Lash Out into Armor Rouge! This should be able to pick up the KO!
Oh, man. What a play.
I'm surprised Tom didn't play around that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes with this team, you kind of have to rely on sleep turns a little bit, and Paul's gotten, as much as Tom has landed every Sleep Powder,
Paul has also woken up on turn 1.
Paul has gotten a lot of first turn wakes, so.
But that's the game we play, unfortunately.
It is
and with Torkoal being put to sleep here, your two main carries, that being the Armors and the Lilligant, kind of doing the heavy lifting. With that, the Expanding Force and the Sleep Powder, both of the big threats on the field. I don't think this Indeedee and Torkoal are really able to flush it out. Of course, the Torkoal could wake up, but again, it has to take that mandatory turn of sleep still.
It has not taken that mandatory turn of sleep here. The item on the Indeedee is Psychic Seed, so this Indeedee is very Sporn vulnerable here.
But the Psychic Seed doesn't even come up that much, right? Because the Indeedee can't set up Trick Room. Because it always moves last in its bracket, the Spore is always going to go off before the Indeedee, and there's no way around that. I think Paul is in a dominating position now where this Ogre Pond is able to just go for Ivy Cudgels or Horn Leeches into Yeah, and you could just Ivy Cudgel into the Torkoal. It does so much. That's a critical hit, I think.
Critical hit in the sun. And we see Spore go into the Indeedee on Indeedee trying to set up Trick Room. So, yeah, I mean, I think Paul is in the driver's seat here to just clean up this game.
And we already know Flutter Mane's in the back for Paul as well, most likely. So something like, now that they need these Terrasilize as well, you're hitting both Pokemon. Shadow Ball, you're in such a position, there's no recovery here on Tom's end of the field. We see a Wake Up, we see the Follow Me, turn Wake Ups all around, I guess.
This is a crazy set of first turn Wake Ups. The Ivy Cudgel will probably do nothing to this Indeedee in the sun.
Okay, but now there's a way that Tom has a way back in this game, right? Where if the Torkoal does Wake Up, it goes for Heat Wave, you could... theoretically, it doesn't. The first turn Wake Up of this game.
If Tom got that Wake Up and flipped this game on its head, that would have been crazy scenes. The first turn Wake Up Follow Me from Indeedee, really big for Tom there, but not getting the Torkoal Wake Up may just steal this for Paul. But
precisely.
I've said that a couple of times and have been wrong almost, so we'll see. The Horn Leech, though, from Paul does pick up the Indeedee here. And, I mean, this Amoonguss is going to go first, but I think Paul is still in a decent position here.
Yeah, absolutely. Something like a Pollen Puff just kind of starts chipping down the Torkoal ears and goals into kill it. A Spore also makes sense, even though the Torkoal is moving next, right? You just want to put it back to sleep. Torkoal does wake up. Everyone's just been waking up today. Heat Wave does connect on both Pokemon here.
Without the sun, it just doesn't do enough damage here.
Yeah, and that Choice Specs too. You have no Indeedee redirection. We see Paul going for the Focus Energy on Ogerpon, just curing the win. And a Spore to the Torkoal, guaranteeing that Paul just wins this game here very confidently.
Probably not needed. Maybe Paul just going for style points.
Okay, but how many times have you seen the Focus Energy animation?
Yeah, he probably hasn't clicked it all day and wanted to just, click that button real quick. But I think with that, Tom is still clicking his buttons here, but I think Paul can just click Ivy Cudgel here.
Right, he's on the wall, and Ivy Cudgel's going to come down with a critical hit, maybe. with that Focus Energy boosted and Ivy Cudgel boosted. Critical hit, Ivy Cudgel is going to seal the game for Paul and is going to take it 2-1.
Yeah, very good set from Paul. I think, like you said, all that, the going for the Terra Water on Amoonguss, no matter the Sleep Powder call, was the objective right call there and put Paul in such a good position. Yeah,
I think that's turn one. I think Paul realizing that's how Tom wanted to play the game with the Armarouge Indeedee in the back, with Lilycole on lead. I think the Terrestrialization Water on the Amoonguss was a really smart choice, right? You have the option to do it on your Ogerpon in the other game, but I think Paul realized is I'm leading Ogerpon Shenpao, but if I know I'm tearing my Amoonguss, why not just get it out of the way turn one?
Yeah, I think we could have had another interesting game 3 if Tom did go for the Sleep Powder again into the Amoonguss, but maybe saying, hey, that worked game 2, maybe Paul won't do that again. And, the after you not doing nearly enough to Amoonguss, and Paul just gained so much momentum from that turn, calling that right with the Terra Water.
Yeah, and I want to point out again the big thing of Lilligant not having Leaf Blade, right? Not being able to damage that Amoonguss is super big, especially being next to Chien-Pao. You most likely would have been able to get the one-hit KO. So if you do call, Tom's way of capitalizing off of the Terra Water is an inaccurate 75% move. And while he did hit it, we saw with the turn 1 wake-ups, that's just how the cards unfolded. But with Leaf Blade, for example, you just guarantee hit. And you're guaranteed to take the KO on Amoonguss.
It also gives you a way to deal with the Flutter Mane late game. Like in game 1, Tom had the Lilligant in the back and wasn't able to do any damage into the Flutter Mane because his only damage move is close combat. So just these little niche team picks maybe just put the match a little bit in favor of Paul. He knew how to play to his win cons.
Yeah, but that means Paul is going to be going X1 into this final rounds of Swiss. He's not out of the woods yet. Both these players still have a chance. If Tom is able to win this next one, they could potentially both get CP. Everything's still in the air. They are both X1. Congratulations to Paul again. We are going to cut to a quick break before round 6, our final round, so please don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Round 6 is sure to be exciting, and we'll be back at the BrookLAN local.